Hello, and welcome to the Digital Energy AI Dialogues with me, Julian Walker, Director of Communications at Digital Energy AI. And in these series, we are exploring the powerful impact of AI in the energy world. I'm delighted to be joined by three brilliant minds who are actively pushing the boundaries of energy innovation. I have Dr. Chris Cooper, Technology Guru. Thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
And we have Professor Mohamed Haroun, the world-renowned academic from Khalifa University. And finally, we have the founder of Digital Energy AI, Dr. Mohamed Eldred.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
To start off, how would each of you define innovation in today's energy world? And I'm going to start with you, Professor Mohamed.
I have a lot to say on that. I'll start with my beloved late professor. May he rest in peace. He just passed away a few years ago. World famous Professor Chillingar, oil fields named after him, the Chillingarian oil field in Iran. When he graduated, 7 years between undergrad to PhD, starting at the age of 14 at USC around World War II, he was fascinated by joining the US Air Force as soon as he graduated. And well, his first innovation was realizing how to place strategically aviation gas before jet fuel in salt domes for the US Air Force. Well, he's a petroleum engineer, petroleum scientist, and a geologist, and that was just a serious science contribution to intermediate engineering problem, as we were discussing before. Define a problem, realize a efficient solution from immediate available solutions around you. That's the starting point. And at the same time, given the fact that he entered the US Air Force, the US was privileged to a lot of amazing findings from the Nazi regime, given the fact that the US led the coalition to overcome, Nazi Germany. And so there was a very famous, and I owe a lot to that in all my 100+ publications. Leo Casagrande, an Austrian lead Nazi scientist for Hitler, was the underlying reason why the British Secret Intelligence and the CIA kept on taking pictures of the railroad tracks in the Nazi regime that conquered all of Europe across the harsh ice winters. They saw these electric terminals sticking out on both sides of the railroad track. Didn't understand, but they got non-stop ammunition, non-stop medical, non-stop nutrition, and the Nazi regime kept on going all the way into deep Russia. Well, USSR back then. And so Leo Casagrande, as much as any of the amazing Nobel scientists, were taken into the US. My professor studied all their findings, and he understood that electrokinetics was utilized to stabilize the otherwise very sloughing, unstable formations in the icy weather, and he utilized that to adapt and apply and scientifically prove up from lab innovation to all sorts of real applications across Canada, US, California, very strict environmental regulations, as you know, down to Argentina. So I co-published multiple papers with him, and my first few patents was about him challenging me and saying, can you make electrokinetics works in carbonate reservoirs? He is the foremost, biggest authority on carbonate reservoirs, wrote multiple volumes on carbonate reservoir geology. He says it's not going to work. And everything I've done works on sandstone and heavy oil. Mind you, heavy oil is just like, the strongest viscous heavy, honey that can't be extracted from a honey jar unless you're spooning it out, right? Like mining. And so that is I'm just going with a common analogy. This is what viscous heavy oil, as we all know. And just to give more on the technical side, we worked on 6.7 bitumen API and made it flow from very low surface that is impossible to utilize EOR for steam implications, impossible mining. A crime to Mother Earth, right, as we all know. And we made it work up to 15 API in Argentina. So where I entered when I finished my PhD is during my PhD I discovered how to make it work for carbon reservoirs. And it was fascinating how we did it. This is the beauty of science, proof of concept into reality upscaling. And this is where there's a lot of maturity in our capability with the steering of gorgeous industry giants, but there's a little bit of a missing set of bridges. And this is what I would love to discuss. We've taken things up to TRL, what is known TRL 6, which technology readiness level is what is known by NASA adopted in terms of proof of concept 1 through 3, and then upscaled maximum physical space. We've designed in our lab, ADNOC Research Lab, our own bespoke, I'm very proud of that. It's our own work, our own IP, the world's largest lab scale at the highest pressure, up to 15,000 psi. And we are measuring things that have never been measured. And we've developed all the understanding that is upscalable. What we want is data analytics. What we want is the AI, because the AI is not going to delay. It is going to assist in uncovering all the patterns that we are seeing, and it's going to bridge the wisdom. Then the wisdom is not just, in general, the wisdom comes with a lot of experience. Yes, the Godfathers. But there is certain wisdom that exists in these young brains. I mean, I've been a professor for about 20 years. I see that. And we need to capture that. We need to AI people, we need to map people, we need to map geology, we need to map processes, and we need to realize where there's matches and where can we integrate. And when we realize matches, then the same type of problems will be sent the same type of clinical solutions. And we get a lot more efficient, and the energy transition will then thrive just by virtue of us reducing our energy intensity to keep things going, while we improve what I'm really, really passionately after is marginal assets. And I'll stop there for a second.
Oh, well, fascinating there. Chris, do you want to come in with where you see the innovation in today's energy after that?
Let me first of all say, you're proof in the pudding, Professor Mohamed. Okay, every day is a school day. What we've just learned today is incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Look, innovation it's a huge subject. Okay, but I'll break it down to the basics. Where I see huge opportunities around innovation is back to real basics in the energy industry. We've got data. We've got ways now of analysing that data in ways that we couldn't do it before. Mm-hmm. So the new insights we're able to glean are phenomenal compared to what we could do 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm as young as the UAE. I've been in the energy industry now on and off for 30 odd years. And even back in the 90s, you know, we were connecting SCADA systems with the enterprise. That was SAP R3 at the time, okay? But we were taking insights from data in the utilities industry to determine when to turn turbines on and not, based on the power requirements, not to turn too many things on at the same time. Think of what we're doing now with smart grids. It's just at a different level. So what we need to do more of is analysing the data we have today. And remember, many organisations have, 50, 80 plus years of data, different file formats, but using the latest AI technologies, we can now integrate that. And now integrating it, for example, in the subsurface, one of the challenges we have today, you have different engineers that speak different languages, the reservoir engineers, the seismic engineers, data scientists, and so on. But using AI and agentic AI, we can find ways of connecting those dots, allowing that communication to drive significantly more value. So for me, innovation is leveraging those latest technologies that are constantly evolving. We're on this AI journey, and using them where appropriate to bridge some of those gaps that we weren't able to do before.
No, and I think there's exciting breakthroughs out there with AI innovation. What do you see out there, Dr. Morgan?
Well, I think the industry, as everyone's mentioned before, there's been a lot of technical innovation. So not just in the subsurface, but VSAT, so satellite communications that's used in industry today, that came out of Baker Aeronautics in the industry. So that was an industry play into telecoms. You had historically as well innovation in terms of Shell came up with scenario planning, which was used by a lot of businesses all around the world. When I do look at it, where the future is going, I think one of the things that's not been necessarily seen is the energy industry has historically always been the number one commercial buyer of supercomputers. And as we know now, with data centers and all of this, I mean, BP over 10 years ago were building billion-dollar data centers. So when we look at data centers, supercompute, right? The industry's always been leader. Again, we're talking kind of technical innovation or business innovation to deploy capital, because the industry's had a lot of capital. What I'm seeing and I'm hoping where things are going to come is creativity, because that is the one aspect that the industry has not been necessarily great at. It has not been creativity, whether that's in unique business models. Shale, for example, it transformed the industry the technology had been there for a while, right? It actually was quite low when it came. Obviously, it was disruptive. Again, it was technical. Nobody's really cracked how we can change business models, and I think creativity is going to come in terms of business models. What is it we're going to do when we consider? I'm from. Data centers are now 20% of the consumption of energy, right? I heard something the other day that now they're building 20 gigawatt data centers, and there's only 1 gigawatt nuclear plant, so there's not enough that's coming. So I think we're going to have to look at new business models that's going to have to do that. And I think creativity is something that's going to have to play. Now, is that AI generated creativity? Is that human generated creativity? I don't know, but I believe creativity is the thing that needs to be focused, because that's not been done before in this industry.
No, and whenever you come with innovations, there's always going to be barriers put up. And where do you see sort of the barriers being pulled down when it comes to AI, or scaling it across the energy industry? Because that's going to be an issue, isn't it? It's going to be, how do we scale AI? Where can it be used?
Julian, this is a beautiful question. Actually, I think I said this to Dr. Morgan. I told my students at the beginning of the semester, I'm bored of teaching this course for 25 years. It's one of my specialties, and I love it. Petroleum economics and quantifying uncertainty to assist in risk mitigation. But throughout the 25 or so years, we worked a lot on the quantifying of the uncertainty in the volumetrics, right? In the subsurface, that beautiful black box of ours, right? How much is the volumetrics, the porosity from fractures, from hard measurements of core plugs, from logging, from whatever different. And AI assists in realizing the spread of the distribution of that uncertainty that we only used to use Monte Carlo-based probabilistic, right? A crystal ball. But it goes a lot more than that, because this is where we're going with right now, is uncovering that spread of heterogeneity. And this is very passionate about this, in realizing how can we better improve the progressive journey of the maturity of our assets, and assisting them to go to what we call the most elegant economic limit, stretching it down to a few molecules of oil and hydrocarbon coming out, alongside the hydrogen, alongside the beautiful new other deliverables of energy within our energy transition. But really, this is about uncovering AI assisting to quantify best the uncertainties, the ones that make the most sense in us making the better decisions. As you said, to scale it up, what we understand in a certain defined state of geologic complexity, we'll understand something different, but there's a pattern between the two. There is a geologic signature that no matter how much wisdom exists around the round table, we can only comprehend and calculate so much. AI can assist in, as you said, everyone, bridging certain, it's going to relax us a little bit to be able to see certain things that we're comfortable, with our wisdom and experience to move forward and progress. So this assists in better scalability of the true new energy mix that we're after.
And again, it can be all sizes of organizations, startups, the big players as well. I think this is where AI doesn't care if you're big or small. It can help you, whatever size of industry.
Applies everywhere. But on that scalability piece, I personally believe, and this is the view according to Chris, okay, that there's multiple reasons for it. First of all, it's because we're still building those solutions and looking for the problems to solve, point one. Point two, it's because we're not focusing down on the solutions that will drive the most value, people lose interest. So when you look to get the commitment to scale it out across an organization, you don't get the buy-in. I've got to come back to the core basics though. It's also back to the data. Let's remember, you need a digital platform and data. I mean, I always like to use this analogy. What do you need for AI? It's like a stool. You need 3 legs to sit on it, yeah, so you don't fall over. You need really good quality data. If you don't have that quality data in the first place, you're not going to drive that value on the other side. You need really good quality infrastructure, okay? And then it's the people. And in my experience, we look at AI companies, and the people they have are data scientists and software engineers. Great. But in our industry, you need the subject matter experts as well. By bringing those 3 together, what we found is it means that you can actually build much more accurate simulations of what happens in the real world by leveraging those SMEs. You're getting them on board. They're understanding then how to leverage AI, the value. And as a result, that's where you get the adoption. But I think if you get that right in the first place, good quality data, good quality infrastructure, and the right people to change that mindset and drive the value, that's where you get the adoption, that's where you get the value, and that's where you get the scale out.
Absolutely, and I think obviously you've got mindset, culture as well, isn't it? The culture of the people.
Absolutely.
How important is that, do you think, Dr. Morgan?
I think it's incredible. So maybe one thing to take back is, so vibe coding. So where we get the AI to write its own code with direction from coders who can then check it, do the quality assurance, make the changes needed. But we're talking 20%. Of course, we see this now. 20% improvement. We're talking about startup like us being able to compete, in theory, with somebody like big giants that are out there. Now, what's required is obviously the infrastructure makes a difference because that's what you're competing it on, right? You're competing on that. But this is incredible. So when you look at now what's happening, the large tech companies, first people getting rid of coders, right? Now you think about that, it's going to happen in our industry because what's the difference between a coder and a reservoir engineer? What's the difference between a coder and a mechanical engineer who's doing front-end design, right? Or detailed engineering design. You can write that, you can build that out. So what I'm seeing the innovation on the culture is we've got to understand that any one of us can be sitting there with a workforce of 1,000 people that we have on our computer, on our laptop, and we don't understand what that means. That means, 1,000xing Professor Mohamed, 1,000xing Dr. Chris.
You don't
right?
want 1,000 of me, trust me.
Right? No, but we've got to think about that. And I think we haven't even started to understand the repercussions of that, because we're not talking about AI taking jobs. We're talking about what will you do when one person is leveraging a superpower of 1,000 people that you can't do. What are you talking about when you don't need the domain expertise because somebody's got access to this superpower in the sky that's there and they know enough to go. I mean, this gets really freaky really fast, and it's very interesting.
And
So
passing on wisdom,
Yes.
you sort of pointed to, and industry expertise.
Yeah.
May I please add to this, because
Absolutely.
I think you've just hit one of the most potentially highest traction, valuable, potential performing capability of AI. Since 1859, since the very first barrel was sold in a drum of whiskey, 55 gallons that didn't work for logistical purposes, then became 42 gallons, actual, perfect, near cylindrical. We've had every 8 to 12 years floor prices and ceiling prices, until the last 11 years, since my days in OPEC 12 years ago, we've had, 3 different floor prices in the last 11 years, 4 almost. COVID is a little different. But with all that in mind, it really taps into the most sensitive subject in the energy industry, where we were before mining for coal, then drilling for oil, and then getting understanding on the gas, and then the shale oil, the shale gas, and the coal bed methanes, and beyond hydrocarbon. This is what we are. It's an energy transition. We'll start with coal, we'll go to the next. But with the plummeting of the price of oil, we've lost multi-generation gaps of interesting youngsters to enter the oil and gas filthy industry, and we're decarbonizing it in every way we can. We're actually, the truth is, and I'm very, very passionate about this, we're actually the cleanest industry on the planet, because we produce 104.7 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, hydrocarbon, and we're consuming about over 1 billion barrels of water per day. But guess what? That's not polluted. We're taking care of it. So we're actually taking care of planet Earth. My fear is, as we climb up to the needs of 115, 120, 125, 150 million barrels of oil equivalent from hydrocarbon, alongside hopefully much more non-hydrocarbon, non-carbon bearing molecular functions, we can do that. How can we do that with the limited expertise? There's not enough expertise. There's about 8 billion barrels, 8 billion people, sorry, I keep thinking barrels, and we're producing the equivalent of 250 million barrels a day of the net energy basket, and we are to produce 500 million. We're to produce 1 billion to meet a more uniform distribution of energy, lack of deprivation, right? Lack of relative deprivation, and we can only do this with AI. We need to bridge not the gaps only between scientific and lab-based understanding and real world. We need to bridge the gaps between the lack of population across the universe. We don't have enough people in the energy industry, and we need more. AI assists in bringing in all the amazing experts that should have retired, and we're not letting anyone to retire, right? My professors work till 95, 98, and we'll keep on working. We want to work. We're passionate about this. There's not enough. We need more. We need to recruit more.
But I also think that AI will actually help facilitate connection across the entire value chain of the oil and gas business, the energy business, right from the drilling, the extraction.
Yes.
And at that point, using data and analytics, you can understand the volumes in real time of what types of products you're taking out of the ground before you take it to a refinery, so that you can then determine for the traders in advance, they will know what volumes of what types of products they have.
I love it. Thank you, Dr.
But that's only
and
one
we don't
part.
have to revisit another Asian tiger crisis market with 1 million barrels surplus sitting on the market, $6.775 a barrel. I saw people of our age group cry back in 97, 98 when they lost their job. It's unheard of, but that is an unnecessary thing that we can take advantage by maintaining that energy downhole in the reservoir, and that's what's going to prolong its favorable, elegant maturity.
But how do we continue to attract the talent? I honestly think one way that we're not looking at so well today, let's think what else we can do with AI and drive innovation. Let's think about the byproducts coming out of the business today. What can we do, leveraging AI potentially, to determine and design new products that could be used, for example, in the automotive industry, in the aerospace industry, that could be 30, 40% lighter than what we have today. There's a lot more I think we can do over time when we get to better understand the art of the possible.
Sorry, this is all special, very to me. You talk 5.65 million British thermal units of energy per barrel. It's 42 gallons. When you refine it, and I'm a gearhead, I've been racing for 40 years, in various championships, you're reducing a third to more when you're refining it. Now, when you're combusting it in the most advanced, efficient internal combustion engines, you're losing another. So we're producing what? 250 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, and we are consuming and burning what? A fifth of that? Is that fair? That's not fair. There's so much energy content that we've lost. And what you've said is spectacular, because harnessing the true energy content of that gorgeous fossil-based fuel that was cooking for over hundreds of millions of years, that has specific signatures of single-cell proteins, that needs to go to humanity at large.
I think we're literally
There's
still scratching the surface.
We're barely, yes, sir, barely.
So I'm just going to say here, what I'm seeing is, so really the scarcity in all of this, it's not the AI, it's not the hydrocarbons. The scarcity is passion.
Yeah.
It's
Mindset.
people with intellect,
We don't have
with
enough.
drive, that want to take this forward, right? That's what's going to make the difference. It's humans that have that kinetic energy, that want to just push things forward and just take it happen. That's not easy to find. That's definitely not easy to nurture in organizations or even in academia, right? You can get a lot of people that are not passionate, but the passion is the one that's going to really take this to the next level, right? Because that's going to be the superpower. So if you're passionate, you're going to be more curious. You're going to go deeper. And with almost a technology that's almost not from our planet, that then becomes a little bit scary if you think about it, because that's what you want to attract. You want to attract not just on paper intelligence, not just, hey, you can do this. You want the passion. You want the drive. Maybe the risk takers, right? Somebody who wants to go forward, because then that could be an unstoppable force. Because if you're passionate, why couldn't you see things that nobody else has? And hey, I've got this AI, there's mechanical engineers, there's process engineers, we've got accountants over there, we've got all this data. You know what? Let's create this new business.
Do you know what? I love the passion around this table and this discussion. My biggest concern with all of this, there are sadly external factors that influence a lot of the decisions that are made in some of these areas. And those are things we can't touch. And I firmly believe that we should focus on what we can influence and change. But sadly, geopolitics and all the rest of it, and I don't want to go down that route here, okay? There are external factors that we can't necessarily influence, but I still believe by, as you rightly say, bringing the right mindset together, encouragement, education, we can make a difference on really smart innovation in the energy sector.
Absolutely, and look, these are some fantastic insights, and the conversation has been buzzing. I really enjoyed hosting you all, and I think we'll just have to get you all back for another episode.
Can we bring AI in the next one? So the three of us, we clone ourselves with AI, and we have ourselves talk to ourselves. Who's up for that?
Every day is a school day, as I said.
We'll work on something.
I'm being cloned as we speak.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Chris, Dr. Morgan, Professor Mohamed, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you.
It was a great pleasure.
Great
Thank
dialogue.
Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more insights on how AI is reshaping the energy world on Digital Energy AI Dialogues.